Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Draken.
What's up, everybody? The stepdad is still here, and y'all seem to love me, so this is awesome.
Ruben Wrestler.
The stepdad is still here. We'll call you. You're co-host now. You're not just
straight co-hosting.
Power Dragon.
That's true.
Right, co-host
like
Power
we're
Dragon.
A 6-year-old coming down for breakfast. Hello, Dave.
But, and for those who are asking, Nerd Girl is still out hanging around.
Oh, yeah.
Came back on for a top 10 just a few weeks ago. We're still in plenty of contact. She's a very busy lady who does awesome stuff. And, when she can hop in, she will. Yeah. That said, if you missed our pre-show, boy, did we talk about some sports movies. That was fun. Patrons and subs to this channel get access to that extended version early, and we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat, but sub first to get 2 chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight, thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And we are currently living in a Doctor Who world, everybody. It is Doctor Who time. It is all about the Doctor Who. And this is, it feels a little similar to Warhammer in that I am not a Whovian, you know what I mean? Right. I've seen a few episodes, the very famous ones, and they were very good and I enjoyed them. But I know very little else about sort of the series and what's happening. So a lot of these cards and or like sagas and things are trying to tell these sort of very specific stories that make a lot of sense when you know thematically what they're doing. But mechanically, they don't always make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, that's okay. That does weird stuff.
I will say, though, and I'm with you. Like, I've seen enough, but like not enough that I've seen like full seasons. I've seen like 5 or 6 episodes out of probably like
exactly
8, each of 8 seasons or whatever. But what I like about it is they're including enough things that if you're a super fan, there's some like deep cuts in there. Mm-hmm. But if you're a casual fan and viewer, there's still enough things that, oh, I get it. I know what this card's supposed to be. You're like, oh, I've seen that episode. And like, that's pretty cool. So I imagine there's going to be fans that see a thing and go, oh, I want to collect this because these are like my favorite things being represented. Or the people that are just super fans going like, oh, it's so cool you included all this. So like they're checking a lot of boxes, which is really cool.
For sure.
Yeah, so trying to give like those payoffs of the great moments in the episode, those payoffs of the great character moments, like sort of the best of these characters in their prime, kind of capturing that moment. Seems like something they've done a fantastic job of so far. Bringing up here the some of the like the plane chase stuff I was looking at, which looks really sweet. I'd honestly kind of forgotten about it because there's so like cards. Like, oh yeah, there's a whole plane chase deck you're getting, and it's going to add this whole layer to all of your games. It's interesting because this was something I was talking about with some CSI folk, was that this product is really strange because with Warhammer, you had the special edition decks, right? And that was it. And they had a small print run and they sold out and off they went. There weren't collector packs of Warhammer. You know what I'm saying? Either you got the weird Surge Foil version or you got sort of the regular version and that's it. There's a question of like how much collector product is actually going to be sold, because if you buy the 4 decks, you have all the cards. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to find any cards in the collector pack that weren't in those decks. And that's a giant question mark. And from all, that I can tell, it is a much smaller run of both the decks and the collector product, but particularly the collector product, because I don't think a lot of it is expected to sell that well.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because I guess it's just, if you just want the alternate art, you want the foils, you want whatever, okay, that's cool. But I don't know, like, I guess this would be the first time I would say it feels like the collector product is probably for actual collectors this time. Mm-hmm. Like, if you just want the cool, rare version, you want to get a complete set of everything because you're a Whovian completist or whatever, then maybe this is a really sweet product. Whereas like most of the time it's kind of like, oh, these are just extra boosters and I can get all my stuff in these other spots, right? So maybe that's who it's for. I don't know. Like, because I've been debating that.
The Maverick Girl is correct. There's 1,200 cards. Y'all understand that we were so used to like 300 card sets, and those are our big sets. the 12. There's like 5, 6, 7 versions of cards. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's still whatever 280 cards or whatever, but it's like 5 versions of everything.
5 versions of everything. So like it doesn't. There's only X, but you made a bajillion versions of everything. So again, so that being the very sort of unique thing, at least from sort of the retail side of things, which is what is the demand? Like it's selling okay. The decks have sold great. The collector product.
Well, one thing that is going to help it from a Magic player that doesn't really pay attention to Doctor Who things perspective is that we do get some new cards that have partner. And cards that have partner all do well in Commander and all kind of remain popular in Commander. And so now we've got the Doctor's Companion cards. Even if you're building a deck that isn't necessarily a Doctor Who deck, you can have a new group of companions. In particular, there is a new colorless companion that when you put her as the companion or the Doctor's Companion, you choose a color and she gains that color and then also has a different ability. Her name is Clara Oswald. She's a 2/6 for 6. Before your commander game, you choose a color. She has Doctor's Companion, and if a triggered ability of a doctor you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So, for example, my roommate is making a deck with, I think, the 9th Doctor and her, and doesn't watch Doctor Who. So I think that's going to help a lot. There's a lot of really powerful things happening in these decks. I think that a lot of the cards do so much that I think that general commander folks are still going to enjoy what's going on, even if they don't necessarily know the flavor.
Yeah, there is in particularly there's a white card I have to talk about. Everybody Lives.
Yeah.
For a white and generic mana, it's a rare instant. All creatures gain hexproof and indestructible until end turn. Players gain hexproof until turn. Players can't lose life this turn. And players can't lose the game or win the game this turn. This card seems absolutely, it's already pre-ordered like $32. This card is going to be $1 million. Like, they've already kind of hinted, at least they've sort of said as much, that they don't really want these cards to be like legacy, vintage, all-stars or whatever. And I'm like, this card is nuts.
This is a white counterspell to Thassa's Oracle that doesn't target.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Right. That's crazy. So like, and not just that, we know that what's the green spell for green and generic? All guys are become indestructible and you gain hexproof.
Heroic Intervention.
Heroic Intervention. That's a super expensive card. They've reprinted like 6 or 7 times. It's still like almost $20. And you're telling me you're not gonna be able to reprint this very easily because the BBC has a very tight hold on that license. You've not really given us at least a roadmap as to what you're going to do when cards like these explode in the future. How are you going to deal with that? Are we going to have a secret layer asterisk situation where you call it something else, but you can't? You can only have 4 Everybody Lives, in your deck.
I will say this though, like you could get away with Everybody Lives being reprinted, just different art. Right?
Same with
not tied to a character
Bowmasters.
or location or whatever. So that's the good news.
That is good news.
But the card itself, mostly, I see it as just being an answer to somebody trying to kill the table.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody's like, okay, I'm gonna combo out and do like 50 damage to everybody. You're like, okay, well, we're not dead,
Everybody Lives,
and we all get another turn.
Yeah.
Right. So this is like,
that's usually what I'm seeing from this.
Right. This is super Teferi's Protection. This is Teferi's Protection plus for less
everybody.
mana. Yeah. For less like everything. You just like say everyone stop. Just everything stops. And next turn. Like
the only
that
thing
is the weird thing to me. That's only 2 mana.
Right. That's the
only thing that
the
this
crazy part.
doesn't deal with is, there's a couple things, I guess. Gaining infinite life. This still lets you your opponent gain infinite life.
Sure.
Cyclonic Rift doesn't stop Cyclonic Rift, but it stops comboing out the table. It stops anybody winning the game or losing the game. So, I agree with you that this is a white heroic intervention at the very least.
Right. Which is just going to be a monster card. I don't know how else to say it. And it's already proving to be, because everyone kind of lost their mind when they saw it. And I'm like, I don't blame you. The card seems nuts. But trying to collect this set is just going to be daunting. I don't know how else to say it. You're going to have foils, surge foils, showcases, showcase surge, showcase foil, like for every single thing.
And did I read somewhere there's like an autograph situation, or is it just like
I think it's just the serialized card. It's just the serialized. Yeah.
There's some other special thing in there somewhere.
How many cards are in this set?
I think it's like just under 300, like 280 or something like that.
280. No, well, I mean,
think that was the number.
Like how many unique versions?
Oh, a lot. It is like 11.
Because I'm wondering if they snuck an Easter egg here. Because I think I found one if they did. If there are exactly 862 cards in this set.
I think there's more, which is the issue.
Because that's how many episodes of Doctor Who there have been.
Oh, that would have been cute.
That would have been really difficult to nail, right? Because they're always making more.
For sure.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm like, I get it. It's cool. But you know, man, that's a very odd product. And after so many had been burned from Commander Masters, I don't know how much of this collector product a lot of people are going to be stocking as a result.
Yeah. And that's where you end up with cards that tend to be more expensive down the road because people will not have bought enough of this product. So somebody goes, oh, I didn't know there was a, I don't know, Surge foil, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, it came from this one product nobody bought 2 years ago. So, you know, those are the cards end up being $50, you know, down the road.
Yeah, so the Doctor Who number 929 of Everybody Lives, which is like the Surge foil extended art version, will be $1 million because it's so hard to find to start with, and who opened it. Now, there was a question of where are the 14th and 15th Doctors, as I understand it. They're up to that at this point. And Gavin Verhey answered that. He said, yes, I said this in a panel a while ago, but for a wider audience. While we couldn't get the 14th and 15th Doctors into the decks, we do have a plan for them. It was critical to me to do. That's all I can say for now, but stay tuned. They're going to make a secret layer. I don't know if that's, I mean,
sure, of course.
That just to me is like secret layer without saying secret layer, read between lines. Ta-da. And that's fine.
So the 15th Doctor is the new Disney Plus series that's going to come out, right?
Is it?
I think so.
Actually, you know what would have been better than a secret layer? That would have been the fun, like, buy a box from your retailer this holiday season, get this like 14th, 15th Doctor, like 2-card combo. You know what I mean? Like,
or go to an event and buy a pre-con and play a pre-con. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do things to get people
those would
seats.
Be cool. Like, get people to go buy something during the month of December from your local retailer. Well, I say that. I guess they already have the Lord of the Rings thing coming out in November sometime. So maybe they don't need that. But.
Right. And that's another product that is like between the scenes with the 6 cards, and it has a couple of set boosters in there. It has 3 set boosters and the scene cards. And so those are going to be like $30-$35 a piece, something like that.
Which actually seems like a solid deal, to be honest. I'm a little impressed. Like, that seems reasonable.
Well, because you already have like $15 worth of product on the set boosters just right off the top. Yeah. And then if the cards are great, which I think the Elf set is amazing, that's going to sell out big time. But again, those are also cards that are in the collector booster, and they have those other weird treatments in the collector booster. And but again, who is kind of in on collector boosters for Lord of the Rings right now at the end of the year? I don't know. Lord of the Rings has done nothing but impress me in terms of sales. You know what I'm saying? Like,
still selling with a lot of people I talk to, like, which
nerds,
is crazy.
Yeah, but, nerds love that LOTR. So it is a giant question mark. But we shall see.
What I like about these projects too is we're getting to see where the level of crossover is and what matters to the Magic community and the fandom. Because like Lord of the Rings, I think, has even exceeded what everybody thought, right? So it's like, oh, this whole Tolkien connection is way bigger. Is it going to be that big for Doctor Who? Like, we know there's a lot, but like, we'll see, right? And, you know, we were talking about this earlier with somebody of just like, is Doctor Who fandom bigger than Final Fantasy fandom?
Right.
Because we're going to find that out in another year or so, right? So it's just like, these are kind of things that we didn't know before that we're going to know the answer to fairly quickly.
I'm absolutely stoked that Final Fantasy is a full-blown Lord of the Rings-esque set. We're going to draft it. We're going to have decks with it. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about that. That should be great. But, you know, like the Vibrant Girl notes, they're also printing the full set in the scroll frame, the whole damn thing, along with the new cards, along with the extra treatments. And that's just, it just felt like a lot when I heard it. And it still feels like a lot all these months later.
It is a lot. I mean, there's no denying that, you know, and realistically in my world, I don't think we need more than 2 to 3, we're probably 3 versions max of every card, right? After that, it's kind of like, okay, why does this card have 5 gimmick printings, right? Why is there a Surge foil, a TARDIS print, a scroll thing, blah, blah, right? Like, do we really need, it's kind of like what happened with that Elish Norn a while back, right? Like, we saw like Elish Norn alone, I think, had 6 versions or whatever it was. And it's just like, but who really needs that? Like, it's to the point you're not even that excited because you're like, oh, I opened a different version, but it's the less rare of the 6 versions,
not
or
the
whatever
cool
it is.
version, right? And when you, it sucks because, you know, I can explain to wizards, I can show them that regular versions sell twice as much as the unique showcasey, special framey, whatever stuff. People just want the cheapest version of the card that does the thing it's supposed to do. Like, that's what they're interested in.
For me, I think that's really what it is that you want people to be excited when they open a thing, right? But if you make a bunch of versions of a thing, they're now less excited because the thing they opened isn't the super rare thing, right? It's the argument I had when they wanted to do the foil prize packs, right? Because now you gave somebody a pack, but it's like, okay, well, cool, I got these things with a little Planeswalker stamp, but they're not the foil ones. So even though I won an event or I did well or I got this door prize or whatever, it doesn't feel as special because you made another special thing that I didn't get. And I feel that's sort of what this is. When there's, like we're saying in this set, 5 versions or 6 versions of some things, a lot of them are just going to be versions nobody cares about. So like, why did we waste the time to do it?
It's wild. It's such a complete change from what Magic had for so many years, all the way up to basically 2019. Magic was this, and now Magic is just totally different, and it's just wild to see.
So have we gone full circle on the like Magic and Garfield intended to where we just don't know what people are playing anymore?
Right.
If that's where we wanted to
Magic,
go.
I mean, the hot take, I don't know. I've said this for a while. Magic unsanctioned and the unsets are a lot closer to Magic the way Garfield intended than the Pro Tour finals.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
you know, Magic. Yeah.
I think the issue is that the whole company, you know, bought in on the Pro Tour finals part than the we should just hang out and have fun and enjoy ourselves part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's a game.
They got so sort of serious about it for such a long time. You needed someone, I guess the Chris Cox of the world, to come in there and be like, yo, no, this is not the most important thing. It shouldn't be the most important thing. And we should make this more interesting and fun and exciting for all these other different people. And again, a bunch of that's obviously clearly worked. It's funny because, you know, the end of the year, going on to talk a little bit about Ixalan and Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Something I was noticing was that, you know, at the end of the year, not the greatest time to release sets. You know, Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt, kind of went poorly. You know, and they had the Dracula cards, and it's like, bro, that's not bringing the heat. And you can see with Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they're like, okay, Mana Crypts, okay, let's put Cavern in the main set.
Like, that set's going to be straight fire.
They're going to put
versions of Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, they're going to put a ton in that. So be prepared for bombs to drop because they don't want that set to suck in ways that the Innistrad sets did.
Yeah, I think I have to say, like, I think I have been enjoying Commander games more when I'm just getting surprised by cards. I'm actually kind of liking this lately.
And that's not gonna lie, where we're at, right? You know, like, tell me what that does. I will believe you. Whatever it says.
Like, but it's kind of cool because I'm like, oh yeah, that's still a Magic card. Sweet. Like, you got me.
So we're going to move on here out of the first pick in the Gala of the Townsfolk, thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MAGICMICS for 12% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you, and we appreciate their support. There was some super cool promos that were shown off that are going to be coming to local game stores, which I thought was neat. A whole variety of things. Go ahead and take a look here if I can pull them up on the screen. So celebrate your local game store with the Wilds of Eldraine. There's a super cool version
they showed
of
these
Ice
a while
Out.
back, actually.
Yeah. And now we finally have kind of gotten around to they're coming out, and that's going to be great. Pyroblast, no, it's not legal in any formats it wasn't already legal in, but that will be cool. And so starting September 8th in Japan, October 9th everywhere else, you'll be able to provide these borderless anime versions. So check those out at your local game store.
I also think that might be the best version of Pyroblast so far. That art is awesome.
Yeah. It is very, very
and I'm
nice.
not even a huge anime fan, but that is sweet.
Good.
Right. If you got a cube, you know which version you need.
Yep.
And that's the one. A bit more in depth, and this was just kind of wild. The WPM Premium Store promos throughout 2024.
Yeah.
The characters are playing Magic.
They're so cute.
It's amazing.
Cute thing.
And Sarah Angel is holding the Sarah Angel card in her hand.
Isn't that awesome?
That's amazing.
I love that.
I love it. It's so cool.
The Goblin King is like just a little dude with a crown on.
And he's just like, look at all this cool stuff. This is incredible.
Literally,
what a cool thing.
The only gripe I have about these is you drop the ball on Gaia's Leash because even casual players don't play Gaia's Leash. Like
Gaia's
all the
Leash
others, I'm like, all right, these will probably find their way into like commander decks or like creature themed decks or whatever.
This is the first, I want to say like Zombie Master. Is it Zombie Master who has like the first foil or something or some? Yeah,
probably.
He was only printed last in 6th edition. So this will be the first
foil for Zombie Master. Good reprint there.
Yeah, very cool.
Gaia's Leash is a big miss, but
again, it's also another one that's kind of weird, right? Like because it's so old.
Sure.
Well, sure, but like there's a billion other green cards you could have been. It could have been any elf. It could have been.
It was Time Spiral Time Shifted was the last time they printed it, other than 4th edition. Yes, no one really cares, but it's also probably going to be. But it will probably be a little pricey. Why? Because it's going to be hard to find. It's a weird version.
Oh, sure,
it's hard to find promo. Like, you probably get $20 or whatever. Just because.
But the others are all actually playable.
Yes,
like, they will end up somewhere.
Sarah Angel, maybe per se, in your Angel
but
deck.
Sarah Angel makes a cut in everybody's Angel decks.
Right. They'll still want to have it in there.
People collect Angels. They want every Sarah Angel that there exists. I would say that something like Elvish Mystic would have been just like a fine.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
That would have been great. But, still the Lord of Atlantis playing Magic again is also fantastic. And we're talking about cards and the flavor text. It's just, wild. And so these are super cool. And they're going to come throughout the quarters through 2023 and 2024, as well as an annual promo for Cavern of Souls with the Cosmium Neon ink. I love their names.
Yeah, I don't know why we have to name everything weird, but
why is it Cosmium? Because it's a cool word. Yes,
you have to search for it and have to future-proof ourselves for future names.
There you go. So, because Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they're going to have the new treatments. They're going to have the Mana Crypt stuff. They're going to have the special guests.
Yep.
That's another kind of reprint, thing they can do. Because I think we're finding this trend of like putting more and more value into just the standard sets. Yeah. And honestly, I think that doesn't bode crazy well for the Masters Edition sets. Because
I'm fine with that.
If you're juicing the standard over and over, you don't need to juice the expensive stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Which I think they realized. And that's the point though, right? Like Magic was an ecosystem that was able to like sort of burn down and regrow and burn down and regrow with just standard. But when you started printing all of the super powerful stuff to eternal only formats, standard was what suffered as a result. And they saw it not only in the product sales, but in the event population. So trying to go back and reintroduce that old ecosystem, I think is a good thing.
But I would also say, because this is something I theorized a couple of years ago, why they needed to do stuff like the Universes Beyond is so you can introduce more cards to build the company's reprint equity.
Sure.
Right? Because we are trying to do these things. And at that point, it had been like expeditions and other stuff or whatever. But you're using some reprint equity by having these special inserts. So at some point you say, okay, if we do want to do a big fun anniversary set, master set, whatever, what can we put in here and keep people excited? Well, if you're making more stuff for Commander and for Universes Beyond or whatever, you now have options of cards you can go pick from and go, okay, we haven't reprinted this in 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and it's a $20 card. This is a $30 card. Let's get these out here. And now we still have a product people to buy. Because at some point, we'll hit the Goyf thing, right? Where we've printed so many Mana Crypts that now Mana Crypt's like a $25 card. Well, that's not so exciting anymore. Like, we need something else that's the $50 bill that people can open. Let's go find that and put those in the reprint sets or whatever.
Sure.
But that's probably going to end up being Universes Beyond and Commander stuff ultimately.
Yeah. That's going to be the One Ring and the 12th Doctor.
Eventually,
season.
Yeah, 2 years from now to be Everybody Lives, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it'll always be doubling season forever. That's hilarious.
But that card's down to like $40, and that's the lowest it's been in a long time. And we're probably getting it remastered. So
we just had it available in 2 sets, and it only went down like $25 or so, $30, whatever. that car is still hot. Like even after that, like
it's still an $86, you know, double Masters extended art version. Yep. Still there.
Staying power, man. Staying power.
The Eldraine Goose Mother one that looks like a storybook is still my favorite.
Yep, and a foil is $150. So it's still a very lauded, wonderful card. But what happens when they reprint it again in Ravnica Remastered? I don't know. Right. We'll see. But I just can't see them not doing that because that doesn't make any sense to me. And so, yeah, I mean, well, it's always a question mark. And I don't know what the plan kind of is, but I know, I can tell you right now, Commander Masters burnt people to the bone, to the core, into what the hell did we just put all of our money into? Because it ain't selling like you thought it was going to be selling, and it got gross.
No lie, it's bad enough that I decided I'm just going to wait till people start fire selling some of it, because I expect that to come probably in the month of November, where people try to get their inventory right for taxes.
The big holiday, you know, sales and things will probably have some really good prices on a lot of collector product. Not just that. I mean, probably a lot of it. That's
how's 30th anniversary prices right now? Just checking in.
It's a good question. Like, I don't know.
I hadn't looked. The last time I saw, they were still selling very high. But again, a lot of those aren't out in the world. So that's just selling on the sake of rarity more than anything else.
Right. Like, there's not even a price listed for it in Scryfall. So, don't know, can't say.
Who knows?
And that also usually means there's not enough activity on TCG Player for them to even have a price.
You know, maybe one of something is sold in the last 60 days or whatever.
So that said, let's move here to Desperate Ravings. There was an interesting Twitter thread. No, I'm not calling it that. From Jake Browne, who goes by Fake Jake Browne on the service. And, you know, so why is he quitting Magic? Why? Well, he spent $4,400+ playing, quote, professionally over the past year. And, you know, before we kind of go down the full road here, what I would say is that I feel like if I had tried to count up all the receipts back when, like, Ruben and I, when we were on the PTQ grind, we would have gotten out way fast. We would have been like, what the hell are we doing? But it wasn't about that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be too cheesy about it, but like, it really was about being with my friends and going to these places and having a competition and enjoying that, all those aspects, going out to eat, playing, you know, late at night, finishing the stuff at Applebee's or whatever. Like, because if you're going to rack all this up, Wizards doesn't care about constructed Magic 10% of what they used to. Like, it's not even close. So they're going to give you opportunities to compete if you want to, but when you add it all up and your expenses are way higher than what you get out of it, that's not kind of what they're doing. Does that make sense?
Here's the thing though, right? Like, competitive anything, the uppermost level never makes the most money for anything. Like, the most of your people that engage with your games, whatever the game is, are going to be casual, and overwhelming majority are never even going to attempt to be at the pro level. Now, a lot of people talk about it, and a lot of people say they aspire to it, whatever, but they're not even going to get close. Like, that's just the way it is. And you're going to spend more in most cases, unless you're in that upper, hell, I was going to say 5%, but might even be upper 1%, you know, of the players at whatever it is you do. And I don't care if it's Magic, League of Legends, CSGO, whatever. Like, you travel to these tournaments, these conventions, you're buying $60, $100 weekend passes, you're paying $50 and $100 entry fees, you're buying hotels, food. And for some of these tournaments, the prizes aren't even that big, even outside of Magic. You know, you might win the tournament and first prize is $1,000. Well, you spent 3 times that just to be there for the weekend. You know, like, so what did you think was gonna happen? Right? It's just not designed that way across the board. And I remember telling people for years that when they wanted to, oh, you know, I'm gonna be an esports star or whatever, it's like, slow your roll, buddy. There's a reason that you saw people like Ninja as a good example, right? Was competitive, got known for doing stuff, and even he realized, like, there's just more just me being casual every week, hopping on and playing fun with people on streams.
Right.
And then I don't even have to worry about the stress of travel and all that extra expense. Hell, a lot of those people lost viewers and lost followers whenever they would go off for 4 or 5 days to do what they were known for doing.
Right.
That's how idiotic their fans are. Like, so it's just like, I get it.
I just, you know, even if I look at like how much money I spend on Arena, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not expected to get that much out of it. Even when there's cash tournaments on Arena, I'm not going to get that money back. That's not how kind of money entertainment works. You know what I mean? I'm going to put the dollars into the thing that gives me joy and entertainment. And, you know, that Marvel Snap $10 thing I just spent for old Elsa, we ain't getting that back. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to have fun times with the season pass stuff and the card that they'll let you play with and whatever. So, like, for Magic to be like, man, I spent $1,200, $1,300 in RCQs. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, you also got to compete. I'm sure you had some fun, you know, and you were working towards a thing, and that's what costed the thing, because there is no system whatsoever. There used to be some system, right? There used to be a pretty good system, but then they kind of kept chipping away at it. But there also used to be a whole content world where I could pay you, when I worked at Star City Games, many hundreds of dollars. You know why? Because there was a paywall where thousands of people were paying to read your stuff. And there was a whole ecosystem there of a way for you to somewhat, maybe not get ahead, but, you know, tread water in a somewhat comfortable way. And the better you got at that, the better you could do at that. But like, that system's gone. Like, it's long. Not only did COVID kill it, Wizards killed it. Like, Wizards is like, we're not funding this. We're not having any trains to get on. There's not any gold level, platinum level, whatevers.
Right.
It's just there's good prizes. Right. There's good prizes and show up if you want them.
Like, some of that I've told people is also, we did that to ourselves as players, because we kept asking for things and Wizards kept giving us the thing we were asking for, even though it wasn't necessarily the best thing. Like, Wizards like, sure, this is what you want. We're going to give it to you. You want this many points to count? We'll do that thing. Hell, I told people, even with COVID, like, the reason a lot of these stores tournaments, if they're still even running tournaments or doing it the way they are, is because COVID showed them that they don't need you to make the same amount of money they could make, because you were asking for more prizes for lower entry fees and all this stuff. So, like, now your return's not as good. Like, as players, we didn't know how well we had it. We got greedy.
Right? It's just one of those things where, you know, you thought this was the answer, this was the solution, and or let's push for this. There was a whole like players union at one time, and then that completely fell apart because it was just a lot of online fluff, is the best way to put that. And Wizards even tried to give some lip service to it, and it just blew up in everyone's faces. And by everyone's, I mean the players, not Wizards.
Yeah.
It was,
you know, and they did try to do the Pro Player League or whatever, MPL, and that was the closest you had, because they were just straight up giving you a payroll. You know, like you had a set income. That's the closest you've been, and even that wasn't good enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, in a hot minute. So
yeah, I just don't know. So man, this is such a complicated thing, because first of all, I don't really know who this Jake Browne guy is. Sure. I feel like I should have heard.
I've met him before. He's a nice guy.
He seems like a nice guy.
He's a wonderful dude.
And he wrote a very long Twitter thread about an issue that is a very serious thing about growing up and growing old, and you know, things that used to make you money or bring you joy, and then you change how, you know, whether you're successful at them or not, or whether you should move on. Like, seems like a very detailed and thoughtful thread.
Yeah.
And then the responses to this thread are so varied. Like, tons of traction on this thread.
It's true.
Well deserving of desperate ravings. This is where we're supposed to talk about like the internet scuttlebutt of the day.
Sure.
Ranging from, I totally get you, I understand what you're talking about, to, you know, how ungrateful, etc. And like the sort of gap between it. He seems like a very reasonable dude. And I think everybody eventually gets to this come to Jesus mental calculus moment with any hobby that they turn into a career.
Or that they want to, like, you know, do well pro, or do well at the highest level, or, you know, do well where you're going to get prizes, you're going to earn money, you're going to get compensation. And searching for that compensation is not where it's at. It's just not, you know. And
I think the difference, though, is what do you accept as the experience for your money, right? That's what changes. Because there's a point where dudes will travel, they will share a hotel room with 6 other people or whatever.
For sure.
Like, hell, years ago, I got to a point that more than one person, nah, I'm good. Like, unless we get another thing with a suite with the pull-out couch, like,
Oh,
like,
these days?
Like, I'll just pay the extra and I'm just taking care of myself. Sorry.
Today,
you know, like,
I will split a hotel room with one person.
Exactly.
Evan and I shared a hotel room with 9 other people.
I'm saying, but there's a point in your life where that experience is fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But as you get older, that experience becomes more expensive.
Yes.
Because you're like, I don't care if it's going to cost me an extra $150 for the weekend.
Right.
Right. Like,
I'll pay an extra $50 a night to have my own bed, you know.
But that's something Jake even pointed out in his thread. It's like, well, I look at this and say, I'd rather spend that money with my wife and my family. Right. Like, I want to take more trips. I want to do whatever and not be on the schedule to play Magic whenever I travel. Totally justified.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, there's other people that spending that amount of money is worth it to just get that notoriety, to get that brass ring, to get the jump start on being a creator, right? Getting some notoriety out there. So it's different for each person. I think that's just, we just have to figure out what is our money worth for our experiences. Because
I mean,
our generation as a whole is looking more at experiences, honestly.
For sure. And it's also hard, especially with Magic, where one good finish can propel you for an entire career. Right?
Sure.
One Pro Tour top 8, one Grand Prix win can launch your entire commentary, writing, content creation, YouTube career.
And financially, it takes care of you for a year or two at least.
Yep. Ruben, there hasn't been a Grand Prix for about 4 years, Broham.
I'm not saying recently. I'm saying when Magic.
Sure, also, back in the day, yes. Back in the day, it could do really well.
I will say, though, there are still a lot of regional tournaments that do have real prizes. There's a lot of those still going on. Now, they're not, the $50,000 prize, but a lot of like $5,000 and, $2,500 and whatever that, get you through a couple months or whatever. Sure.
Yeah. It's always interesting when you kind of look at what's the brass tacks of me, like trying to get the dream. Right. And it's not always pretty when you kind of lay it out there and go, man, I think I lost a lot more than I gained here in a whole variety of ways, whether it's my time and my effort and, stuff like that. Because it wasn't just those times that he traveled that he put time and effort into doing well at those events,
And even think about it, like pro football as a good example. Even right now where we're starting to get these minor leagues finally going and whatever, which, by the way, looks like the two minor leagues are going to be merging now, the XFL and the USFL. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you follow those guys' journeys, a lot of them tell you, like, they were still like couch surfing and, because they couldn't afford to get a house in the place where they were going to be training or whatever yet. Because, like, even at that level where they're getting real paycheck, like real game checks, for playing, even they still have
AAA baseball too.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Not to mention single A baseball, but
when you're chasing those dreams to be at the top level, like you give up a lot, and more in time than money. More often, right?
And sometimes, and for a lot of people, it doesn't work out. You're going to hear about the ones where it does, though. Just like at the casino.
Yeah, that's the American dream.
People went home broke, but the one who won $1 million, that guy's on a billboard. You know what I'm saying?
Like this person won 2.5 mil on a slot machine.
That's how
I'm
the
not
American
telling you
dream
about
works,
every
baby.
person who walked in and lost $500 yesterday.
Right. So let's move on here to a little bit of splash damage. I always find it, I'm really fascinated with, because collectible card games in general, I love it. One of my favorite things to do when I was going to Gen Con was to find the people who were selling the old CCGs that had died, like SimCity CCG and like,
dude, I could name so many.
Oh man, like just crazy stuff that was back in the day. I loved it. But
the first game I saw a trading card for trading card games was Magic the Gathering. The second I saw was Overpower.
Yeah, Overpower was fun.
One.
Yeah. So
it was kind of like a complicated version of War, basically. But
sure,
I mean, and then it became versus system as a whole thing. But Fantasy Flight is coming out with Star Wars Unlimited, and I want you to note. I just want you to kind of feel what's happening, and by feel, I mean hype, and by hype, I mean there is none for this product.
Yep.
I mean, there's practically negative hype for this product. It's wild when you look at Lorcana and how Lorcana built up, this intensity and, it's coming. Are we going to have enough? We're going to play enough. And no one I feel is excited about this product. It's wild.
Here's my problem with it, though. And I remember seeing this when they first got mentioned, I don't know, back in, felt like March, maybe.
Months ago, many months ago.
Yeah, but it's like the old school art they're trying to do is kind of like a little bit of a weird feel. Mm-hmm. It's odd timing because we don't have like a new Star Wars series we're hyping up. We don't have a new Star Wars movie we're hyping up. It's just kind of like coming out at a weird time. And gaming as a whole, you have to hit your timing because right now there are juggernauts across the board. It doesn't matter if you're talking about video games, card games, miniatures, whatever. There's not a lot of room. So something like this, like you were even attached to a property and somehow managed to hit a date where there's nothing related to this property hitting anytime soon. So it's just, and my guess is probably was intended to.
Well,
and then delays or whatever, but who knows?
Right. Based on like sort of announcement timelines and what they've said about it, this went into development around when the Mandalorian season 1 came out, which was huge. And everyone that is Baby Yoda, and it's just going to be a Star Wars world, and we're just living in it, and it's incredible. And they're going to make that weird hotel down in Disney where you charge $2,000 a night, and that's going to be super successful for years and years to come. And now looking back, it's a little gross. And so I can understand where we're at as to how they came to it, but I'm just like, man, when you look at Lorcana versus this thing, and yes, I know it's little apples and oranges, but they're still CCGs. And when one CCG is like, oh my God, it is blowing the doors off, and one CCG is, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, and it's a giant IP. This isn't just like, this wasn't Battle Spirit Saga where they just tried to come in out of nowhere and make this thing happen and, kind of show off these characters you've never heard of. This is Star Wars, but Star Wars doesn't really carry a lot of weight anymore like it used to.
Sure, but you walk into a game, if you're talking about card games, it's Magic, Lorcana, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z for the most part, right? If you're not those, you're going to have fighting for shelf space.
And One Piece is hanging around. One Piece is doing okay.
That's
One
true.
Piece is hanging around, but
it did get a spike because of the series and stuff coming out too. So One Piece is fair.
And Flesh and Blood, but like there's games, but like you're saying, you're fighting for shelf space.
Right.
Yeah, there's not a lot. And even Flesh and Blood, I think I'm still like pulling for them.
I'm too, but they've been
not in a lot of stores.
They're not.
I'm in a nerd mecca up in the Northwest, and there's a lot of stores that don't even carry that.
Right. And so like Force of Will died. I mean, hell, just like Battle Spirits has died. Battle Spirits, by the way, is dead. That game is done.
Yeah.
Just set it out. It's a pasture. It's over.
Yeah, take it behind the shed.
I still got their the promo box.
Right. Which, again, they tried. Congratulations. But, there's only so much that you can have in Flesh and Blood. Yeah. I mean, I try to champion it at cool stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, it's new, it's different, and blah, blah. You know what Flesh and Blood did that was really stupid? Was first edition boxes. That was the worst ever. I mean, seriously. Because you were literally saying, this is the product you want to get, and everything that's not first edition, you don't want to get. And so all of their second printings was garbage.
It also went the opposite way, and they almost got known for having expensive cards.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a turn off to a lot of people, especially when you see those in their top tournament decks and stuff.
Right.
People immediately went like, to even me get into this game and build a deck, I'm going to have to spend like $1,200 or whatever, even though there were other versions or whatever. Like that's what was getting showcased, and that didn't help them either. So yeah, it's tough right now though, man. Like every genre of nerd stuff has bangers right now. Like 2023 for gaming was fan-freaking-tastic.
Actually really terrific. No joke.
Yeah, like insane right now.
Right.
So I feel bad for game developers right now because unless you're doing like some indie stuff that's just going to be downloadable on like Xbox or some mobile stuff, wherever, it's hard to get your foot in the door right now.
It really is. I mean, and next year is supposed to be Grand Theft Auto 6, which is going to be ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think people keep forgetting you're competing for time even more than sales right now.
Right.
Because there's just not enough to go around. Like, hell, we have a whole separate stream where we're playing Baldur's Gate, and it's just like, okay, that's the other video game I get to play right now, you know, for the most part. It's that, and then before I go to bed, I'll play a game of like Teamfight Tactics or something.
Right.
There's not a lot of room. Like, there's so many awesome games that have come out I haven't even considered because I know there's just not time in the day for it.
Right. I'm just not, even I have Xbox Game Pass, but I've not been able to play Starfield. What the hell am I going to do? I would have time to play that bajillion hour game. Like, I don't, there's nothing there. So, like, and even if I do want to play a bajillion hour game, like Cyberpunk 2077 2.0 just came out, and that seems awesome. And Liberty, the Phantom Liberty expansion also seems awesome. Haven't been able to play that either. You know, so like,
dude, just think about
so much good
this
stuff.
Year alone, how many great video games have come out? How many good expansions, even for the card games that we play, have come out, right? Like, just everything's hitting on all cylinders. So it's just like, what do you do?
It's
and
wild.
I think Star Wars Unlimited is just caught in the trap. It's like,
and
you can't even make the news for gaming because there's so much other stuff to talk about. Hell, you're trying to release a game where Lorcana's talking about their second set coming out and Wizards is talking about Doctor Who right now.
Right.
Like, where do you get a headline?
Right.
You know
how do you squeeze in the middle of that? You're like, but remember Luke Skywalker? And we're like, okay, sure. You know what I mean?
Don't right now. It's terrible.
It's absolutely wild. So let's move on here. Let's turn the corner to the finisher. Now, fellow Magic content creator and friend of the show, MTG Young Mage, has, as of this week, collected every single merit badge. All 138 of them that the Boy Scouts offer. Now, we
Congrats,
don't have...
buddy.
Seriously.
Which is insane, by the way. I used to help
That's absurd.
I did some of that.
Some Boy Scouts earn their badges, and it's a lot of work to even just get a handful of them.
I was in the Boy Scouts from age 13 to age 18, and I was a merit badge collector. I was first class. I never got past to life or any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I only grinded merit badges, and I didn't break 100.
Wow. So that's a lot. Now, we don't have nearly the number of accolades as Rhino, but we've done some cool things. So that got me thinking, what merits have you earned that you think you deserve a badge for, Ruben?
Hey, I've written more than 400 finishers, equating out to more than 1,000 punchlines, not to mention working as a professional stand-up comedian for a time, a Twitter account ghostwriter on several occasions, and a comedy show host over my long and illustrious career. So I believe I've certainly owned the joke merit badge by this point, because I am certainly a joke.
Wow. Power Dragon?
You're no joke.
You're not a joke, buddy. Not to us. So we need you to be. Power Dragon?
Well, yeah, so I've done just about everything as far as Magic's concerned. When you're talking about being a writer, game designer, store owner, tournament organizer, you name it. So I think it would just be fitting to have one that's just the boss man badge. Like, you do it all.
Now, this is for the OGs out there. It's for the real ones. Now, I'm no young mage, but in my role as an MTG old mage, wow, I'd put in for the quote-unquote storyteller merit badge, with, of course, apologies to Gerard Fabiano for winning that merit badge first.
Nice.
That punchline made me laugh. I don't care if no one else thinks that understands what that joke was.
Do you get that 14-year-old joke?
Exactly.
I loved it, but that's me because that's
the literal definition of a deep cut.
That is the most inside baseball punchline. For those of you that don't know, Evan was voted as the MTG storyteller for the MTG Invitational 15 years ago.
Oh, for real,
like 20 years ago.
No,
at
it was
this point.
like 13, 14.
13
like
years
2009.
Like and Gerard Fabiano was a very popular vlogger before vlogging was even a thing, and was like, all the pros knew Gerard because Gerard was kind of a pro and Evan was not. But the proletariat rose up and voted Evan in. So that's the context.
Like, all
jokes
the
are
pros,
always funnier when you explain them.
It's true. And all the pros wanted Gerard and all the pros did not want me. And the pros had a much larger soapbox to discuss that.
Oh man, that reminds me of when they did the big bracket of just like internet writers and stuff.
Right.
Oh, and a bunch, like 3 or 4 of us that were writing for Pojo and advanced to like the round of 16 or something. People got so mad.
I remember that.
You got to be real careful when you pit writers against each other. That was really touchy. Whenever
Award shows in places where success doesn't success.
Right.
Is hard.
It's difficult because whoever got the most hit counts
is all it was.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. And so it was weird, but it happened and I had a lot of fun, and that's how we got started with this crazy stuff. Yeah. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, as always, fun to be here, and thank you, chat, for being wonderful participants.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, by the time I see all of you next, I will be another year older. And thank you for sticking with us through 8+ years of this show, and we'll see you next week.
Also, don't forget to leave us 5 stars and a review.
That's also.
That's free. That's 100%. You don't need to patronize, or I guess it's a weird word to say it, but you don't need to be a Patreon. You don't have to sub to the channel. You
can patronize us, which means to talk down to, Evan.
Is that what it means?
Hey, if you leave a review, you could make all the jokes about me you want. I don't care.
5 star. Evan's a doo-doo head.
Tip $3 and you can type whatever the heck you want.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Ruben, for sure.
Hey, thanks.
And we move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffing.com, our co-sponsor, Bandit Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv, at Magic Mics, on Twitter, at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week. Same time, same place for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.